The United States Golf Association
Okay.
puts on an adaptive tournament in Port St. Lucia, Florida, and this is their third annual one this year. It's quite lucrative, sponsored by Ping, and they invite 90 of
By
the
who?
Ping Golf.
Oh, okay.
90 of the best adaptive golfers. The first 2 years, as I'm learning, I wasn't accepted. I'm hoping this year's, finger crossed, that I somehow can get in. My ranking in the USAGA, which is the United States Adaptive Golf Association,
Okay.
my ranking is right now number 19 in the G4.
Wow.
And that's for any age. Even though I'm playing senior events in the United States, I'm not ranked as a senior. And so I'm hoping that my body of work in this last couple of years could get me the invite that I'm looking for to go to the United States Golf Association's third annual adaptive event in Port St. Lucia.
Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia. And for all those guests watching us from around the world, Prince George is about 800 kilometers north of Vancouver, British Columbia, a beautiful, beautiful province, very large province. We are in the center of British Columbia. Today we have a very, very special guest. His name is Randy Mackus.
Mackus, yep.
Welcome to the show, Randy.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Randy is a very unique individual, has been, comes from around the area here. He is an amazing athlete, and we'll be talking about that. But so maybe introduce yourself a little bit to us and tell us where you're from. You're originally from here, and
Okay, my family moved here in 1970. I was born in Vancouver.
okay,
So I've been here since the 70s. So basically this is home. I grew up here.
Right.
Played hockey here and all the rep hockey teams, including a little stint with the Spruce Kings.
yeah,
Coached and volunteered here for 30 plus years.
Wow.
I have 4 sons of my own, but they all live somewhere else.
okay, and you know, so maybe just since you mentioned your sons, what are their names and how old are they?
Jason Mackus, he's 42.
Okay,
Tyson Mackus, he's 36.
and where are they? Where is the,
Jason lives in Vernon. He's
Okay.
works for BC Hydro.
okay,
Tyson lives in North Bay, Ontario.
okay,
Leo Mackus, another son of mine, he's 30. I want to say 32 this year.
Yeah.
He's actually a teacher in Kitchener-Waterloo.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah. So and he's part of the Junior Jays program. He travels all summer to the Blue Jay camps and helps with teaching the kids baseball.
wow,
Yeah, and then my youngest son is Connor. He's 28, and he just recently took another position with Hydro himself. And right now he's stationed, supposed to be Vernon, but he's been hanging out in Trail.
so they are kind of all over the place, but mostly in,
Well, 2 in Ontario, 2 in BC.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so obviously with Christmas coming up here, you know, does the family try to get together?
It's pretty hard for everybody to get together. This particular year is a little bit unique because they all are gone. My youngest son was back to town for a little while.
Yeah.
So kind of this year I'm kind of on my own, kind of lonely, just like being the one-armed golfer. It's kind of lonely because my buddies always aren't into golfing as much as I am either. So.
Right, and then the other thing that I find, I have 2 daughters, is that everybody is busy,
Yeah.
and you know, and that includes ourselves in a way. So, but it's always a special time. So the other thing that I just want to, you are a unique individual in terms of that you lost an arm,
A shoulder, actually.
and not only an arm, and a shoulder.
Yeah.
And that happened in 1995.
1996 actually is.
1996. So you were young, nearly 27 years ago.
Yeah.
And so what happened? You had a medical condition that affected. You explain it to us.
Okay. So what happened is one day in 1995.
How old were you then?
In 95, I would have been 20 or 30. Sorry, 32. So
in a major, you know,
yeah. So
just
I was in really good shape then too. I was working, and so it was a day off, and I was making the kids lunch like I would normally do on a day off.
Yeah.
And I went to lift the pot of water off the stove, and I couldn't lift it. My wrist dropped. And everybody just thought it was kind of funny because I was in such good shape and was an athlete and all that. And so a little time went by, and I went to see the doctors, and they thought I had a rare or a nerve palsy. Like they kind of, maybe I fell asleep on my arm funny or something like that.
Yeah, I've had that.
Yeah, and it turned out after about a year of this, I finally went to Vancouver for an MRI, and they found a small little tumor, radial nerve tumor. They didn't expect that it was going to be cancer, but unfortunately, that's how it turned out.
So was the small
It was about the size of a dime on my radial nerve, and what it was.
So where is the radial nerve again?
It was in my bicep. It was right in the bicep area there, and so they went in from my bicep up to my armpit.
So they took the MRI. So took it. So after you lifted up the weight, and all of a sudden you fell, you couldn't lift it anymore.
Right.
Then from there on in, did then right after that everything was okay again, or
no, it progressively got worse. What happened is from my elbow down, my arm started to atrophy. They actually made me
But is that
atrophy? It started to basically just disintegrate. Like the nerve was disintegrating, and all the muscles were atrophying.
But you still didn't know what it really was.
No one really knew here, at the time. And so I went back to work. I was working in the steam plant actually, and they made me a wrist drop splint. And so it was a half cast.
At the pulp mill?
Yeah. It was a half cast, and it had a horn on it with elastic bands and metal rods, so it picked my wrist up. Once that happened, I functioned normally. And so I was poking ports and working just like normal until we found out that it was, indeed.
So now things that they had artificially make it work. So did it then again fail to perform? But made the decision for you to seek better analysis in Vancouver?
The length of time, the fact that I was told here that a nerve would regenerate before, or would totally disintegrate before it regenerated, unlike a worm that would start to grow again right away.
Okay.
So the timeline wasn't what I thought it should be. So
they still didn't know it was a tumor.
They still didn't really know what it was here. No.
Right.
So I made an appointment. I went to St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver.
Yeah, very good one.
Yeah, they gave me the MRI, showed me, because I was, hey, show me what's going on. I need to know. It's been a year.
The MRI.
And I actually took the MRI with me to go see Dr. Padilla, who used to be here. Yeah, and I went across the, on a ferry, across to see him. He showed me what it was and anticipated that that it wasn't going to be anything. They've seen him all the time. He's just going to go in, scoop it out, repair my nerves. So I had that first surgery. At the time, I was really involved with Prince George East Little League in Vancouver.
Okay.
And
at St. Paul's.
Yeah, and they postponed the Little League opening ceremonies because I wasn't here to run them. Anyways, that's another story back in those days. So I was laying in bed with my youngest son, Connor, was just born at the time. He was laying on me, and we're sleeping, and I was waiting, anticipating that they were going to take some nerve tissue out of here
and put
to rebuild the nerve in my arm. And they figured about 80% I would have had 80% use again.
Yeah.
Instead, I got a phone call saying that it turned out it was cancer. So they did a series of tests again in Vancouver, had to put me through some sort of mental aptitude to see what I would be able to maybe handle, because this isn't something that everybody can just do.
So did they then think that they would have to go all the way into the shoulder?
Well, there's a margin. They need to have a specific margin. So the idea was, I wanted to save the shoulder. I had a real heart-to-heart with the doctors the night before. I break down. I said, because I did the research on the types of prosthetics you could get if you had a shoulder. And I would have just been, okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
They explained to me that if they tried to save the shoulder and didn't, then after the surgery I would need further radiation, and you get infections, and they described it as just being a mess. And so taking me off at the collarbone here was 100% cure.
Is right up
right there, right at the collarbone.
Yeah.
It's 100%
right
cure.
There it attaches to your main body, right?
So it's basically, I used to joke about it, it's called a full quarter amputation. And I used to say, well, I'm from Prince George, I might as well be quartered like a moose, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what they do.
Yeah.
I make light of it, right? I mean, and that was all those years ago. It
27 years
yeah,
ago.
27 years ago, and I'm still here today and doing what I do.
So now the thing, and this is always not good to say today necessarily, but I think we all should know, because you never expected anything like this happening in your life. So if something like this happened today, I look at us here in Prince George now. We have a good hospital, we have a cancer clinic, one of the best ones in North America, if not the world. Has the technology and the knowledge and the ability to deal with issues like you had gone better? Is it better now today than it was then? Or is it something that if it happens, there's just nothing they can do?
I believe that in 1996, I was told that I received adequate care for the region I lived in.
Right.
What I had was pretty rare. It's like one in how many million people, I can't even remember the number, would have had what I had that turned into be cancer. Like I said, the doctor first thought that they would just go in with described it, they'd go in like an ice cream scoop out this little tumor, and then repair my nerves and everything would be great.
Yeah.
They didn't expect it was cancer, even though in my family history, my dad's side, there's a lot of that. And I said to them, I mentioned it, that maybe they should do a biopsy, and they thought, no real reason. And I'm okay. So I trusted the Vancouver doctors.
Yeah.
And like I said, after they did the first surgery and did a biopsy, it turned out that it was a form of cancer. And because of where it was located in my bicep there, the next place to travel was my chest, and I would have been filling out my last rites. So this was actually quite an easy decision. The difference, they were going to send me home and make me wait because they needed a special operating time for it. And I think I was home for about 4 or 5 days. And I went, you can't make a guy like me wait for this kind of surgery. You got to do it now. We need to do this now.
Once you know it has to be done.
So I forced their hand to speed up the timeline.
Yeah.
And I was back down there within a couple days.
Yeah.
They amputated it on a Friday, and I was back here Wednesday, and on Saturday I was coaching my ball team again. Just didn't really miss a beat, which hindsight now, I probably should have took some time off to...
At least not physically, but mentally.
Yeah.
You had to adjust to it because, let's be honest about it, but even now still, 27 years later, you're still adjusting to it to a certain extent.
Oh, for sure. It's a daily battle. It plays on my insecurities.
Yeah.
I always feel like I have to be almost perfect in order to sort of fit in.
Confidence.
And everywhere I go, like, I walk into a room, I'm usually always the only one that looks like this.
Yeah.
It's played mostly a part in my personal relationships, to tell you the truth. It's an insecurity issue, and it's unfortunate that I probably should have took some time when I was younger. It started, my ex-wife left after this happened, right?
Yeah.
Long story short, I ended up with custody of my kids and became a stay-at-home dad as a result.
Right.
But that was another form of trauma.
Yeah.
To have the person that you love just up and leave you like that when you're so raw from the surgery. Like I said, it's been hard over the years, and like 27 years later, I thought I was okay, and apparently it still affects my personal life.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate.
Yeah. And counseling and all of those kind of things to a certain extent are helpful. The other thing we're going to talk about is your involvement in your sport. Where you're interacting with a lot of people, amazingly, that are affected not necessarily exactly the same, but I said, and that is the very positive side. And I want to start talking about that a little bit. Is that so there you got a guy from Prince George that went through amazing changes in his life, and then were you already playing golf?
I was
and
playing
golf
golf here.
Golf is something that plays very, very major here.
Yeah.
And so you were already into sports. You're a fit individual. That's already obvious even now, obviously, and there's no reason that it shouldn't, and becomes clearer as we go further. But so you were doing all the sports things and all the other things, and then this happened, and then So when did you start picking up golf?
Well, several years ago, my buddies and I started playing at Pine Valley, in the Pine Valley Men's Nights. It was a way for me to get together with my buds.
And that again, for the people watching from around the world, Pine Valley is a small golf course. It's a 9-hole, right?
Oh, it's an 18-hole par 3. Yeah, the
it's a par
longest
three,
hole.
yeah.
The longest hole is about 164, 65 yards. So it was a way for my fellows buds that were working.
Yeah.
We could still squeeze in around to golf every Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And it made me feel involved and out with the guys, because once I lost the arm and my ability to still play hockey with the guys and baseball, like losing the limb is obvious, but there's so much other loss that was involved.
Including your social life,
for
interaction.
sure, yeah.
And then other people become more conscious, and some people don't know exactly how to interact with you because of, not in a bad way, but should they look at it, should they, and all the things. The more normal they treat you, the better you are.
Well, yes, and I feel that at times, I guess my ability to play and participate helps me feel more normal. Like I said, walk into a room and people, I've been told because I have a good smile or whatever, that's one thing, but this is still pretty noticeable. And even today, I've been here for all these years, people still look, because it's a different generation, and there's different generations of people coming and going all the time.
Yeah.
Most people are pretty okay with it. Some people have been pretty intrusive, just come right out and ask me what happened and stuff, which is okay. At first, I was pretty raw about that.
Right.
But like I said, it's a
delicate, right?
Well, it's a real personal security thing, and then I have I have a real lack of trust with people too, because of what happened in my past, being hurt the way that I was and everything.
Right.
And the fact that I sometimes feel like I can feel like I'm less than. I don't know if you understand that, or like you feel like you're less than a fella who, has both his arms, big burly man or whatever. And so I've worked pretty hard, especially in the last 5 years, to become in better shape, and then feel a little bit better about myself as well.
I did it in a different way, although I have all my limbs, but I was not very good in school. I failed grade 3 and I failed grade 7 3 times, and I thought I was lesser than anybody else.
So you get that.
And it became something that took away my self-confidence, and then one of the things that I wanted to do is move up, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I had the dream of going to Canada because we were liberated by the Canadian Army April the 12th, 1945, but that became a dream for me. And then the failing grade 3 and then failing grade 7 3 times, then they said, what are we going to do with this guy? Do we send him to a mentally challenged school? Not my parents, they were very beautiful, but or do we get him a job or become a laborer? And being a laborer then was looked down on. Now, not now. I'm proud of it. So, but I became a furniture maker, but it was always with me. I felt that I had failed, and even when I came to Canada and started with nothing, $25.47 here, and even then still I felt I had failed, and then we'll talk about it a little bit later, and then discovered when I was 57 that I had ADHD, and that was one of the reasons that I was not doing as well as the other peers in school that went to college and university, and I was a laborer, So, but I struggle with that self-confidence and feeling that I had failed, even already when I had all kinds of businesses here, and everybody said, "Oh, you're so successful," and I didn't feel that. I still felt then that I had failed. So it's different than you, but still is the same feeling of being aware of it, and that affected me for many, many years. So then coming back to what you were doing is then, so you started then to go out and started to play with your friends and started to work on the golf thing. So how did you then started feeling that this is something that you to me, but I have a hard time imagining until I started kind of looking at you, and then some of the information that I kind of looked at. It's not uncommon, but I thought, how do you do that? So how did you then? You started out initially in This Works, right?
Yeah. So basically, a couple of years ago during COVID, I wanted to become more involved on a national. I wanted to find out how many other one-arm golfers there were around. At the time in Prince George, nobody had seen anybody but me. Now there's 4. I played with 3 other golfers this year, actually, within a span of 9 days.
So when did you? So you started doing this?
Started doing the traveling to play in adaptive golf events in 2 years ago in June 2022.
But when did you start playing around with the golfing? And
10, 15 years ago, easily, at least after I did.
Just to go out with your friends,
for
and
sure.
be together with them.
Yes, and I had some success, like at the Pine
Could you
Valley.
feel that this is something that that works for you?
Yes, and it made me feel good because I was good at it.
Well,
Yeah.
Because how do the saying? And at some point I'm going to have to watch you play because I know you're very good.
There's video.
Yeah. So I'm going to see that. So so you started that 10, 15 years ago. So and then started becoming better at it and better at it.
So my objective was to find out how many other people maybe in Canada were doing it, and so in a roundabout way, I came across a place called the North American One-Arm Golfers Association, and so in 2022, I jumped on a plane, and they were hosting their national championship in Salish Cliffs, Washington. So I showed up. And I was surprised at how many other people. There was like 60 golfers there from all over North America.
This one, eh?
And I was surprised at all the different reasons why they were golfing with one arm. I didn't expect to see what I saw. I was quite.
I kind of looked it all up.
I was quite taken back by it all. There's so many different fellas that are amputees, but also guys were missing a leg. And a lot of fellas have what they call a nerve plexia. They've suffered a really traumatic injury.
Right.
So their arm just doesn't work. It's still there, but it's more like a rubber. It doesn't do anything. They have to actually physically put it in their pocket or strap it to their chest.
Yeah.
And some of these young guys are scratch golfers. There's a few of them that actually have their golf pro cards.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I was pretty good, and then I showed up and found out these guys are way better.
No, but then at the same time, it gave you the encouragement that you can go, right?
Yeah, these fellas here, like this Clay Kemper, for example, I have a video of him telling a story. I was just in Texas with him, and he lost his arm to a black caiman gator on the Nile River fishing with his friends.
Oh my God!
Yes, I have a video that I took of him. We were just recently in Galveston, Texas, where I won the senior arm championship. But he told the table while we were out for dinner how he actually lost his arm, and this caiman was behind him, and it had somehow got its way loose after they had it all tied up. And I guess when he nudged it, it grabbed him by the back of his arm and started to do the death roll into the Nile River.
Ooh.
The guys on the boat had him by the belt, and this thing ended up ripping his arm off. And he was 19 hours or didn't rip it off, I guess. It chewed him up really good. But he was 19 hours to a doctor, and by then gangrene had set in, so they had to amputate. And I say to this day, because I heard that story in 2022, that's the best one-arm story I've heard ever.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So what I did, so when I got your initial bio, but then the more I saw about this, the more I wanted to know about it, because this is something, throughout North America and around the world.
Even in Europe, there's a place called the Society of One-Arm Golfers.
Right.
They've been in business for 83 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a championship this year I believe it's in Ireland. I was going to try to get to it. Again, these trips aren't free. So I try to do what I can. I've done 12 trips in 18 months, 7 last year alone. And my most recent was in October in Galveston, Texas.
So when is the one in Ireland?
It's in July. It's in the end of July.
So it's still a little ways away.
Yeah, I've been the last 2 years in July. I've participated in the Ontario Open,
right?
And then right after, I go straight to Three Rivers, Michigan, and I play in the Michigan Adaptive Tournament.
Okay.
So I would have to forego those two to go to Ireland. And again,
why?
I'm funding all this on my own because of the timeline, right?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be able to do all three and afford to do all that on my own.
You have to
like,
try
it's
to
my
get
own,
some funding.
yeah, well, it's my own dime right now. And I was looking into the funding, and funding is a thing. It's tricky because then I would feel the pressure to do even better.
Why? You're doing already fabulous.
We are pretty
So
good.
certainly we want to be supportive of you, and so you have
There's
to
a- there's
do
a
some
lot of events.
fundraising. Well, after this, because a lot of people are watching this from around Canada, around the world, and so we're gonna have to.
I just recently signed up. The United States Golf Association
Okay.
puts on an adaptive tournament in Port St. Lucia, Florida, and this is their third annual one this year. It's quite lucrative, sponsored by Ping, and they invite 90 of
By
the
who?
Ping Golf.
Oh, okay.
90 of the best adaptive golfers. The first 2 years, as I'm learning, I wasn't accepted. I'm hoping this year's, finger crossed, that I somehow can get in. My ranking in the USAGA, which is the United States Adaptive Golf Association.
Okay.
My ranking is right now number 19 in the G4.
Wow.
And that's for any age. Even though I'm playing senior events in the United States, I'm not ranked as a senior. And so I'm hoping that my body of work in this last couple of years could get me the invite that I'm looking for to go to the United States Golf Association's third annual adaptive event in Port St. Lucia.
So I was doing research, and then what does it mean here? The unassisted catch division.
Okay, there's three in the North
then
American.
this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the North American One Arm Golf Association's National Championship, they have three divisions.
Okay.
So they have one arm unassisted, one arm
So
assisted.
what does that mean?
So I would be unassisted because I have no other adapters or no other arm on, just one hand on the club.
Yeah.
Somebody who's missing, say here, and has an adapter, and he would have an adapter specifically made so that he can still sort of grab the club.
That'd be assisted.
The assisted division. And then the Getchell division is the one, the Sanders division is the one where it's for either assisted or unassisted, but for the higher handicap players with higher handicaps. So there's, like I said, some of these young guys, we have a young fella from Medicine Hat, Jesse Flarkowski, who's probably by far as I know, and with all the titles that he has, one of the best one-arm unassisted golfers on the planet. The kid shoots par or better everywhere he goes.
How old is he?
He's 33.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was born without his arm and sort of golfing at 4, so he's got quite an advantage over me. But he won a long drive competition for one arm unassisted. I hit a ball something like 321 yards.
Is there I hate to say this, but is there a benefit to him being born that way?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because, the first...
And golf's been his whole life since he was 4 years old.
And that's the point that I'm making.
Yeah. I just started golfing. I didn't golf with two arms. I was hockey, baseball, raising my family.
Other sport.
Yeah,
right?
raising my family. So I didn't really take up golf until I couldn't play hockey and baseball and anything anymore. And again, so I'm several years behind some of these people. Plus, where we live, our season isn't anywhere near, like, same as Jesse's in Medicine Hat, not much of a season.
Yeah.
But the fellas in the States, some of them are playing almost all year round.
Yeah.
And that's quite an advantage.
Quite an advantage.
Yeah.
So, so then again, so now you, just taking you back a little bit, so now you started playing golf, you started competing, and then take me from there on in and take us.
Well, could I
watching
show you?
around.
Show you
oh yeah, just show me everything.
So how it started? How it started was, like I said, my first trip to. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
My first trip to the North American One Arm Golf Association.
Yeah.
And that's their logo here. Never quit.
Okay.
North American
I love
One Arm Golf. So my first trip to those guys, and I finished tied for 8th.
Yeah.
And on a count back, you need the top 8. The top 8 players make the playoffs in their division.
Yeah.
And on a count back, I was eliminated. So I technically didn't make the playoffs.
Right.
From there, my very next event, this was 2022, I just went for it, and I went to Michigan.
Yeah.
And I took part in the Michigan 67th annual.
Okay. Can we see it there?
Where I took first place in
Oh my God.
Yeah, I took first place in Michigan, so I'm the 2022 senior arm champion of Michigan. That basically lit the fire right there to keep traveling.
And that was only in 2022.
And the thing about the people that I met have been so receptive,
and that's the difference, right?
And they're liking me. They like my energy. I'm like a little kid when I go to these events. I'm just so giddy and so excited to be there. And I guess I'm amongst my own people. I don't really know if I want to say it. I don't mean any disrespect by saying it that way, because everybody shows up to these events. Like in Michigan, even though I was the senior arm champion, there's other divisions. There's people with cerebral palsy. Yeah. There's guys missing from the knee down one leg, from above the knee.
The focus is not on that.
No, everybody's there to golf.
On you as a golf player.
That's right, and one
those
complains.
Are your peers.
Yeah,
right?
And no one complains about their disabilities or whatever. They complain about their golf, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a friendly environment.
Yeah. Now the other thing that you're not going alone. You have somebody else with you as well, right?
Mr. PG. He's been on my bag all 12 events.
So we just want to show him here. So that Randy said when he came in, he said, "Well, we have another guy. This one is always goes with me. So
he's always in my golf bag. Yeah,
always in your golf bag,
hanging out the bottom
as a good luck, right?
Yeah.
And so it's Mr. PG. So we'll put him here.
I've even handed a few of these out to some of the people along my way.
I love it.
I take pins from Prince George. I probably handed out several hundred Prince George pins or fridge magnets.
I love it.
Yeah, and so, helping to put Prince George on the map the way you described it, I always tell people we're roughly 520 miles north of Seattle, especially because I'm talking to a bunch of people from the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
So in 2022, my journey continued. I went to Chicago.
Yeah.
And I finished second in the senior arm division in a place called Odyssey Golf in Chicago, right in Chicago. Again, there's different categories, but I played in the senior arm G4 senior arm division, which is unassisted. Unassisted.
Yeah. So
and that was a second place finish in 2022.
Yeah, in North America.
It was in North America.
Other international. You were international, but are there some people from?
There hasn't been until this year. There was a fella from Columbia at our recent North America Championship in Erie, Pennsylvania. The culmination of the 2022 event, I guess, the one that really surprised me was my bronze medal. My bronze medal in a Golf Canada, the Canadian Adaptive Open in Windsor, Ontario, at a Essex Golf and Country Club.
So when was that?
That was last September, 2022, and I had no idea, because I usually don't keep score or know what's going on. I didn't even really understand what Stableford scoring was, to tell you the truth, because I'm so new to this game.
Right.
And fella he's missing his arm. The master of ceremonies there, and he has a French accent, and he stands up and he goes, "And from Prince George," and I just about fell out of my chair. I'm telling you, I couldn't believe it. But the picture that you have of me on this podcast, I'm just beaming, because I had absolutely no idea that I was winning that. Never really thought about it at the time, but I was 3 points away from the gold.
Wow.
And the gold medal finisher in Stableford would have got his name in the overall trophy, and I was hoping for that this year, but I came up short. But this was 2022's journey, and this, of course, because it's Canadian. I mean, first place in Michigan was really, really cool.
Unbelievable.
Winning something at a Canadian national championship,
really.
I was very proud, and especially when he announced Prince George. This is where I'm from. This is my town, right?
Exactly.
That's where I'm from. So
exactly.
I was pretty proud to represent.
Now, the other thing that I find somewhat amazing, with all the things that you've done on an international, global, for all intents and purposes, international level, you're not very well known in Prince George. And I say that respectfully, but we got somebody at that level here, and that's the whole purpose of our podcasting, is to bring you in front of much more people around Canada, around the region, and around the world for that matter, and to give inspiration to other people that are challenged for some reason or another, that you can be on top regardless of it, and never give up. And
Never quit.
And that's exactly what it is. And you have it right on your arm.
Never quit,
Eddie,
you bet. And that's the thing. That's the idea. I've taken this as a challenge to inspire other people with disabilities to get up off the couch, because that's how it all started, mostly in the United States and in Europe. It was for veterans, people who came back from the war missing limbs and whatnot. And people with disabilities, we suffer like all kinds of different degrees. Like I said earlier, I suffer with sometimes self-confidence, insecurities, trust because of the way my wife left me like that, and sometimes just feeling like I'm not enough.
Yeah.
And it's hard. There's people in way worse situations than myself, for sure, that have a larger disability and that don't maybe have the same financials. Like, I'm collecting a pension. I just recently retired. It's enough. It's adequate enough that I can afford to hop on a plane every now and then. But some of these other people cannot. They just can't. And that's the problem. Like, I consider myself to be very fortunate in that.
No question about that. And I just dig this one out because one of the things that's always been important to me is that the 2547 is what I had in my pocket when I came off the bus here. Couldn't speak the language, didn't know a soul, didn't have a job. But I wanted to build a lumber mill. And obviously I didn't have the self-confidence. I thought I had failed in Holland, and I had to prove to myself that I could do it. Started with nothing, had 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and didn't have a job, couldn't speak the language. But I knew I wouldn't go back to Holland unless I'm successful or in a box. And that's the way I looked at it.
In a box, yeah.
And so the other thing very, very important to me has always been the foundation for me is attitude. I always will look at the positive side. I don't care what goes on, what everybody says today. I know tomorrow will be a better day. Yes, even today. Passion. Everything that I do, I give it everything that I got. And I believe in to have that passion. And then the other part that is so familiar to you is work ethic.
Yes.
And I work harder than anybody, and what will follow is success. And you are primary. So when you talk about this, I think about this a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I work pretty hard at what I do, for sure. Yeah, to improve my game. So like I said,
that's also for other people that feel that they can't do it, or they are, for some reason or another, they cannot get there, and then they say, I give up. Don't give up.
No.
Never, as you said there,
never quit. Yeah. So this was 2022. Yeah. And this, like I said, this was the
that's all relatively new that you get to this level, right?
Oh, for sure. And this year I started to play better, but didn't have quite the same success. I went to the North American One-Arm Championship, National Championship again in Erie, Pennsylvania. And this particular trophy is for the people who didn't make the playoffs in their respective divisions.
Okay.
And it's named after one of the founders, John Barton.
Okay.
The Never Quit Cup. Actually, we got to turn that around this way, like that. This was there was 32 golfers that didn't make their respective playoffs. And I managed to shoot a 91 that day and win this particular trophy as a sort of consolation.
What is a 91?
91 was my overall score that day.
Okay.
Yeah, so par 72, I shot 19 over par, but managed to win the John Barton, and that was special for me too, because it's the Noaga Brothers, North American One-Arm Golf Association. But Mr. John Barton is a founder, one of the founders of this organization, and it brought a little tear to my eye to get a trophy with his name on it.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was pretty privileged.
So that was this year.
That was 2023 in end of June in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so what else did you do?
Let's see. So then I went to before that, I went to British Columbia. We had our first ever BC Adaptive Tournament in BC.
Okay.
I was actually the inaugural tee shot, which was inspirational in its own way to me personally, because I was born in Vancouver, and here 60 years later, I was the opening tee shot in British Columbia's first ever adaptive championship.
Amazing, huh?
I had a round of 86 in the second day of the tournament, which is amazing shooting. That's only
is that 14 over
14
par?
Over par, yeah. And that was with the pouring rain the last 4 holes, where I shot bogey, 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 double. So I was going pretty good, but that's probably the best round of my life in order to come back and finish second in British Columbia in an arm division. And that's assisted and unassisted.
Wow.
So as far as I know,
They had an advantage over you.
well, a couple of guys have adapters, or they have part of another arm that fits on the club somehow.
Right.
There's one fellow who just won the Canadian Open. He's from Ontario, and he has an issue with a finger and a space between his fingers, but he definitely has both hands on the clubs.
Yeah.
And he's a really good golfer. There's no disrespect intended, but as a person who's only got one arm on the club,
Should he not be assisted though?
well, in Canada there's no distinction.
Yeah,
We
there
all
should
play,
be,
even
though,
guys
right?
missing their legs, we all play in the same division.
Yeah.
And
Is there a
age-wise,
good
too.
part about it? Yes,
It's,
there is.
it's new. It's new in Canada.
Is that
so-
the reason why?
Yeah, it's not enough competition. There's not
Yeah.
enough people like me to have our own division, is what the thing
Yeah.
is, right? So, like I said, this again, another very proud moment, June 2023,
Yeah.
to bring home second place in my own province.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of that, for sure.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So,
The last event this year, sorry, I always bring two flags for Mr. PG just because he represents.
I love it.
Yeah, just because he represents. I just recently came back from Galveston, Texas, where I was the G4 Senior Arm Champion 2023 in Galveston, Texas. Again, shooting another first round of golf where I played 16 really, really, really good holes, and the two holes that I didn't play well on didn't cost me. I had an 8-stroke lead going into the second round, and I was the senior G4 unassisted arm champion.
So are you now getting to the point that you're going to these and you know a lot of the people around
Oh,
there
for sure,
because
yeah.
All of a sudden say, hey, there's Andy
Yeah.
and blah blah blah, and
I'm always taken back because at times in town here, because I was kind of pushed out of my job. I was away from hockey. Relationships that I've had have struggled. I've always kind of felt, like I said, sometimes inadequate or not enough.
yeah,
And to be accepted by the people at these tournaments, like
gives you confidence, right?
it's a little overwhelming. It makes me pretty emotional. The fact that they've all embraced my presence and are happy to see me. Like the Golf Ontario boys have been like, they've adopted me into their group.
Yeah.
They've got an amazing group over there because they're a bigger province. There's so many more people in Ontario.
But you see, correct me if I'm wrong, after 27 years since this unfortunate thing happened, you gradually gone to the point where now, only 2 or 3 years ago, you're really getting to the level of knowing you got it, right? So you are as good, if not better, than most of the average individuals, not lesser than, and to give you that confidence and to know, you will always a part of this group, and they're very much part of your life.
This will be something I've forged friendships that should last for the rest of my life, and this will continue. Like I said, I've already signed up most recently for the USA or the United States Golf Championship, Ping Championship in Port St. Lucia. So I have on my radar at least 6 events. Of course, the British Columbia event again will be our second.
Yeah.
I'll go to the Canadian Championship again for sure. And I'd like to participate again in the Ontario Open just because they've treated me like one of their family out there. And I have 2 sons out there. Like 2 trips out there this year, I turned into week-long visits with my children and my newest grandson, Benjamin Mackus. He was born March 30th. And so
How many grandchildren do you
I
have?
have 3 altogether. And the newest one I got to visit twice through my golf travels.
Perfect.
Yeah,
right?
it was fantastic.
Yeah. So the other thing that you're going to have to look at is fundraising. Do you have a website?
I have my own just Facebook page, and I have a little thing about me on Instagram, but I've never.
I would like to, that you had because after I saw your bio and I was excited about, obviously spending some time with you, and then I had to go Google and look around because I want to know more about it. It's amazing.
This group here, this North American One Arm Golf Association, we have a winter regional that's going to be in Valencia. Valencia, it's in Florida, Valencia Bay, New Smyrna Beach, I think it's called.
Okay.
This is going to be their winter regional, and that's going to preclude, like after that, there'll be the national championship again in June, but they're not quite sure. I keep wanting to come here. I want to bring all those guys here because we have good facilities here.
Yeah.
They have something called Flip Cause. So if I sign up for one of the North American tournaments, I have an option to hit the Flip Cause and put it on my Facebook page and raise funds.
Right.
I just haven't done it because I don't want to feel any added pressure to play better because people are funding my
That's
trips.
not the way I would look at
And the
it.
other thing is, because I've combined a couple trips in between trips to Michigan and Ontario, I've spent extra time with my children. I don't want anybody to get the impression that I'm using their money to visit my family.
And
either.
that would not be the case. Certainly not. We have helped a lot of people over the years, as you likely know, and I never look at it that way. Just from the opposite side.
It would be okay for the actual tournament funding to maybe pay for an entry fee, the hotel room, maybe the airfare.
Yeah.
But that would be, and that's what I would use that specifically
Yeah.
for that.
And that's what it would be for, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
But I think to just plant that seed, and certainly we will be in touch with you about that,
that'd
because
be
I
great.
want to become one of the first ones to be supportive of you.
Well, that would be fantastic,
Yeah.
sir. I appreciate that.
At least $1,000.
Well, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So, and we challenge other people to do the same.
That would be
So-
fantastic. I mean, I'm representing Prince George. I've been taking pins, fridge magnets. I've passed out a couple Mr.
Yeah.
PGs.
Yeah. I
Just
love it.
recently, they started charging me for pins, though, over at the.
No.
Yeah, I had to pay for pins this year.
Who?
At the tourist information office. The previous year, I was just given they were giving me handfuls. This year,
Oh,
they
we
made
need
me.
to talk to them about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
you know,
But I think that's just the thing, because the tourism here they can't just give stuff away all the time either. So
Yeah, but at the same time, that's why we're paying taxes, and that's all part of
It'd be
getting
something to look
Prince George.
into.
I talk about Prince George virtually at every podcast that I do, and I'm not charging them for it. So anyway, I just like the idea of saying there we have somebody like yourself that is so unique, and at the level that you are is so unique. Tell me a little bit about, it's on video as well, right? Because is it on YouTube that we can watch not only you, but One Arm?
North American One Arm Golf Association has some video on YouTube that'll show some people in action.
Okay.
They've had some training seminars, and they've used some of the better players to show instruction. One person for sure to represent Canada, of course. If anybody gets a chance to look up Jesse Florkowski.
Okay.
He's the 33-year-old young fellow that I told you about from Medicine Hat.
Okay.
He's absolutely incredible. He has a sponsorship with PXG Canada.
Okay.
So he gets, X amount of dollars to participate in events.
Okay.
Some of the American fellas as well, the better golfers, they're all younger quite a bit than me, half my age at least.
Yeah.
And again, they have been a great encouragement and welcomed me as well. Like I'm one of the boys, especially the American fan base there, sure. They have some, Michigan has such good donors that everybody who shows up for the Michigan event in Three Rivers, the golf is all paid for, the food is all paid for. So when you enter the Michigan Adaptive Championship each year, your entry's free, all the meals are provided for you are free, and that's because of the sponsorship they have. And there was 90 golfers there this year.
Wow.
And everybody played for free.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of reason why they get so many turnout. But
Yeah.
that's quite a backing of support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that for you in particular, that we are so lucky we having lots of athletes from around northern British Columbia. It's just amazing. We have had several of them on our podcast, and you're certainly somebody that's below the radar, in my opinion. And I believe what I would like to see is that you have a website that will show some of the One Arm golf tournaments and more information around it, and then start thinking about a fundraiser. We'll be the first one to help you, and then from there on, I want to always stay in touch.
Excellent.
As to where you're going from here on in, because you are you are part of us, Prince George, and working at this level is just amazing. And I'm excited about it that you found this group, that are similar to you in a lot of ways, and that you are unique there, not so much because of having not the one arm, but in the sport that you have chosen, and you are unique there in terms of, as you can see here with all the trophies, and will be as you go forward, because you're still relatively young.
60.
60.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's young.
yeah, compared to me, I'm 83.
Good for you. Yeah, that's good.
And I still compete in bodybuilding and physique. I think I'm the oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America.
I actually looked into you and watched a few of your podcasts, and I was quite inspired. Actually, I'm quite inspired. The days I've had some pretty rough days lately, and I think of the people who are working hard, and I'm looking for inspiration, and I've become inspired by your efforts, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I felt for that, and that's why I wanted to tell you about that. The one reason that I came to Canada is because I love it. We were liberated April the 12th, 1945 by the Canadians, and I always knew that I would go to the land of my heroes, and then obviously the other part was I wanted to be successful in business, and then I was not academically very successful, and I felt that I had failed, and that gave me an opportunity to start all over again. There would be nobody here like in Holland. If you get a job, at some point you get married and you want to buy a house or you want to get a career, and they say, okay, show me your diplomas. Well, I didn't have any diplomas.
That's right.
And so then when I came to Canada with my $25.47, I wanted to start from the bottom up. As a cleanup man, lumber pilot, I'd wanted no connections, and then gradually, obviously, I did quite well in business, and then found out at the time that I was 57, in 1997, I walked into a store here on 3rd Avenue, Books on 3rd, Books and Company, I think they call it now. I walked into the store and I found that book, as I said earlier, and I opened the book. I still don't know why, Driven to Distraction. It was about ADHD. And I said, oh my God, that's me. And and that changed my life. And then the other part about it is, I was not very good in communicating. Even when I had the mill already and all kinds of other things, everybody said, "You're so successful," and I didn't feel that way. Mm-hmm. I still felt that I had still not proven to me that I was just as good as everybody else, and then it affected my ability to communicate, and I could do it with some people in my own organization, 3 or 4, but beyond that was a challenge for me. And then somebody in 1990, an ex-sister-in-law that I had, dragged me to Toastmasters. And Toastmasters, I was there for about 10 years and became a distinguished Toastmaster.
Nice.
That, again, helped me where I now on-demand public speaker.
Good.
Speak in different venues, in particular with young people, and I like to talk to. And then the other thing
I wanted to say, you do have a diploma from the School of Hard Knocks. Right?
And that's the important one, yeah. So the other thing, have you seen my books?
Yeah, I've been following you a little bit here last little while.
Did you get one?
I have not got one
yet.
Okay,
so I'm going to do this one for you, and let me see.
You want me to help you out there?
Yeah, no,
you got it.
Yeah, just want to make sure I get your name right. Randy. Oh. So this one is that they said to me, you have done so many things, you should write a book about it, and then I did it several times. I started, and then I stopped again, and then started again, and stopped again. And about 5 years ago, I said, if I don't do it now, I will never do it. And and I wrote this book, autobiography, actually, and not so much hurrah, how successful John is, but more about all the ups and downs in between.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you this one.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And then the other thing that happened is that with ADHD, in 1957, when I was 57 years old, I found out that I had ADHD, and then I started looking at Google about it, and it was looked at as a stigma in a lot of ways. And the more I found out about it, even then, when I was still building my companies, if I go to the bank and I want to lend millions of dollars or whatever it is for my companies, then I say, oh, by the way, I should tell you I got ADHD, and then he would say, well, have a nice day, But since that time, the more I found out about it, the more I know that it is a superpower, and that there is still even now stigma around it, and I started speaking about it more. So have others, and a lot of people now look at it as not as a superpower that that with it. Once you know what it is and you work with it, it can make you. I do a lot of stuff. You say, well, how do you do all this stuff? You have 10 companies, and then you're writing books and you're podcasting and you're doing. How do you do it all? I said ADHD.
That's awesome.
But I call it a superpower, and then I speak about it to young people in particular that are struggling with it, and I give them a copy of my book. So when I talk about it, a lot of people that have been very successful have been successful because of ADHD. It was thought that about 8% of the population are affected by ADHD. We believe now, not only me but many other people, is that it is probably closer to 20% or more. And in fact, what I say is that even people that have no ADHD, but it's so frequent that it likely is in your family, in your friends, or in the workplace you work, is that should read the book about it, because people with ADHD tend to be a little bit different, not bad, but a little bit different, and you get to know them better, how it functions. But a lot of people very successful have ADHD.
Thank you.
And then the other one that I did, you must think I did this kind of reading all these books. I find so often, that especially with young people, but also with older people, that's saying that I don't like my job that I'm doing, and they say, well, change. You say, well, I'm married, and then the mortgage, and this, and all kinds of other reasons. So if you don't like what you're doing, it will affect your whole life.
Exactly.
And you go home and you take it with you, right? So, and then to young people in particular, I say, what you going to do after you schooling? And you say, I don't know. I say, what in my opinion you should do is get to know some of the professions or whatever you want to do, or have a trade of some sort. Talk to people that are doing it. Want to be entrepreneurial? Talk to entrepreneurs, because a lot of them love to share with you, what they think about the direction to choose. Yep. And so, in fact, I heard on CNN, as one of the other programs, they said that in the United States, 70% of the people that work don't like their jobs, and 75% of the 70 are looking for another job. And so, and that was a couple of weeks ago, and already a while ago. So I thought I'm going to write a book about it. So is that finding your passion, living the dream.
I feel like that's what I'm doing.
And I was going to say that.
Found my passion, living the dream.
And so what I was saying is that, okay, John, are you then living the dream? I sure am, every day of the week. And, I usually get up at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm always in a hurry. And I always think I'm late. I always make my bed. And yeah, I'm living the dream. And I was going to say, you to me are the example of an individual that obviously you have the passion, you have all the things, the attitude, the passion, the work ethic, and you're living the dream. There's no question in my mind about that.
You betcha. Yeah.
And I'm going to give you this one too.
Thank you very much.
And then the other one that I'm doing actually is, now the other thing that I want you to do is, I'll give you this one here that is kind of unique about my books, is that, so these are free for you, but can you tell me how much this book cost on the back? It's on the back.
I probably won't be able to read it. $25.47.
That's what it is.
For your
and they are all $25.47.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So and so I'm writing another book, and the other book title will come out in July next year, and it's living young, dying old. And so what it is, it's not age, quality of life. And so understand food and diet, stay physically active. You don't have to be a bodybuilder like me, not being a top golfer, but at least physically stay active. You should, the more active you are, the better. But
Go for a walk.
go for a walk.
Yep.
Even 20 minutes a day, half an hour.
Yep.
And then mentally, reconcile. It took me a long time to do that. Is saying I'm okay. I'm as good as anybody else. And maybe I failed the school and this and all the other things. Maybe all the other things that we are conscientious about. And young people in particular have the now. My clothes is not right. I don't look dear. This is wrong. That is wrong. It's be at peace with who you are, because you are unique. And once you decide that, then it makes whole life much easier. There are far too many people that are too preoccupied as who they think they are. That then reflects onto others. Project yourself as walking tall and proud, and and that makes the difference as well.
Yes, sir. Does so. Yep.
Annie, it was a pleasure. And
thank you very much.
I'm going to watch you very closely as you go into the 24th season. And for those of you that have been watching, Randy is an amazing athlete, and in my opinion, again, proves and shows to people that even with the challenges along the way, that he is a top athlete in not only North America, but globally. And we will watch him closely, and we are proud in Prince George to have Randy speaking on behalf of Prince George all over the place. And he has
Mr. PG.
Mr. PG with him.
He's always on my bag for sure.
Yeah, and we like it.
Yeah.
Again, Randy, thanks a lot for being.
Thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Okay,
Thank
take
you.
care.